We good? Hi, welcome to Montage Services video presentation on IC Discs. IC Discs stands for Interest Charge Domestic International Sales Corporation. And it is an export benefit that many organizations should take advantage of. Before we get into it, let me first introduce Montage Services, which is a professional service organization with offices globally in San Francisco, Houston, London, Toronto, and Berlin. The firm can assist you on setting up IC Discs as well as better understanding them. So what is an IC Disc? An IC Disc is a tax benefit that is accorded to companies that export. It was first put in place back in the 1950s when Eisenhower wanted to have the U.S. more competitive with foreign countries who were already providing export benefits. It is one of the last benefits that still is out there, and it has been approved by the World Trade Organization. The acronym itself is kind of misleading because it says Domestic and International Sales Corp in the same word. Domestic is because it is a domestic company. International because the sales have to be outside the United States that are then taking a benefit for this tax savings. There is no tax, federal or state, for the sales that are considered to be benefited through an IC Disc. So there's 100% tax savings. And eventually those funds can either be loaned back to the operating company or dividended out to the shareholders. Most IC Discs are set up in the state of Nevada and set up as a brother-sister company to the operating company. The IC Disc does not need to enter into a contractual relationship with the customer. The operating company continues on operating as it has been, and the IC Disc gets a commission for any sales that are done outside the United States. What is also important is if you sell a component and that component eventually gets sold outside the United States, that first sale is available for this benefit. So as mentioned, often they are set up in Nevada because of no state tax. We're getting both the federal tax benefit and the state tax benefit. There is one requirement to have $2,500 in this company at all times. That is the required capitalization. Other than that, again, no cash needs to be kept in the company. It is a C corporation, which is to say that it is a corporation for all other purposes and files its own corporate tax return. There are permanent tax savings here because the commission itself is a deduction on the operating company's business, and that commission income is not taxed to the IC Disc. If the money is kept and not distributed, that is where the interest charge comes in. And that interest charge is currently at around 2%. So it is a tax deferral, again, of 100% no tax, but the government's going to charge you a small interest charge until you dividend that money out to the eventual shareholders. I think most people like to look at the numbers and try to figure out, does this make sense to them? And if you look at the numbers, it makes a lot of sense to most organizations that have any piece of foreign sales. If we have an example where there's $5 million of sales to non-US customers, and the gross profit, the net profit on that is 20% or $1 million, then the IC Disc benefit is the greater of two things. either 50% of that net income, which in this case is $500,000, or 4% of the gross sales. Most people look to the 4% of gross sales because that's an easier computation, but the true benefit is if you look to the net income. In this instance, the net income computation is greater, and therefore we would use the $500,000 to say that is non-taxable, and the tax benefit at 40% then is $200,000. So to set this up may cost approximately $5,000, and that's a one-time setup fee, but then you get tax savings such as this, $200,000 in the first year, but then you have tax benefits each year thereafter. As mentioned, if you have other questions about IC discs, feel free to contact us and we can tell you all the answers as you may need for your particular situation. For now, I'm going to turn it over to the audience and see if they have any questions.
Hi, you mentioned that this has been around since the 1950s, but I've never heard of this. How come it's not more widely known or used?
It's a good question. IC discs were used quite extensively when they were first enacted. Then there was other legislation that was set up for foreign sales corps, and foreign sales corps became very popular. Those foreign sales corps were shut down by the World Trade Organization when Boeing got in a fight with Airbus in the mid-90s. Then people went back to IC discs and have since brought it back out of the history of tax, and it's still there as a benefit. I would suggest that a lot of farmers are very well accustomed to IC discs, but less technology companies use it because they're not as familiar with it. And I would also suggest that a lot of accountants and CPAs aren't as familiar with it, so things that they're not familiar with, they're not able to bring to their client base.
Hi, I'm a service provider, so will my company be benefit from IC disc?
Service providers do get benefits from IC discs if they're in architectural or engineering services. One of the biggest benefiter of IC disc is Bechtel, which, as most people know, is an organization that has engineering services worldwide. Architectural also get the benefits of IC disc. However, financial service organizations do not. Thank you for listening.